Hi everyone. Assalamualaikum. Welcome to Texte's another podcast. Today we have very special guest with us. She has joined us from United States. She is the president of Adventure Travel and Trade Association. She has years of experience in adventure travel and trade sector. We're gonna ask a lot of questions about how she was spending her quarantine days, how she made them productive, and above all, how she came into this adventure travel and tourism thing. And according to her, what will be the new norm for travel and tourism industry? We are gonna ask her a lot of questions about it. It will be a really great session. By the way, before going for any questions, thank you so much, Cassie, for joining us for the podcast and taking out time from your busy schedule.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. I look forward to it.
So, by the way, who is Cassie? How you define yourself? Yeah, you do so many amazing things. I've been through your profile and I was amazed. By the way, how you define yourself? Who you are? Are you a traveler? Who you are?
That's a good question. I would say definitely I'm a traveler. I always have been. So I've been in the tourism industry for over 20 years. But I'm also a nature and wildlife enthusiast too. I've always really appreciated the outdoors. So that's always been important to me as a person.
Wow. So, by the way, we are going to talk about that wildlife thing because you were the vice president of Sanitary, and we're going to talk about that later downline the podcast. But you have years of experience in travel and tourism industry. You worked on senior positions when it comes to adventure travel. Can you please just share your story that how this all started, how you came into this industry?
Sure.
Because people,
Actually, I started off. I was teaching English as a second language at an organization in Seattle called the Refugee Women's Alliance, and this was as a volunteer. And the woman I was teaching with worked at Zagram Expeditions, which is a small tour operation in Seattle, but they do international land and small ship tours around the world. And they were opening a space voyage division of the organization, and they were looking to hire somebody to help support them. So I actually started off, believe it or not, in space voyages, and but after a few years of doing space and also deep sea voyages, we did small submersible trips. I did that work for a couple of years, and then I left, and then it came back, and had experience with marketing. And so then I was working on marketing and sales. And I worked at Zagram over 14 years in many different positions. And then I was the main advocate for adventure travel as sort of a definition at Zagram. And so we were a member of the Adventure Travel Trade Association. And so I went to the events. And so when I decided to leave Zagram, I reached out to the Adventure Travel Trade Association because I had a great relationship, and actually ended up over at ATTA when they needed a marketing person. And that was back in 2012. So been sort of in the industry and made my way there sort of through following my passions.
wow, that's really great. So it means you have also experienced all of these things, like when it comes to deep sea adventures or space adventures, you have experienced them all. We're gonna ask you this that what is your favorite, if you can share your favorite experience. But before going for that, you are working in adventure travel and tourism industry. How you define it? What is adventure travel for you?
Hmm. Well, the way that the Adventure Travel Trade Association defines it is similar to me. And it's the most simplest way. We talk about it being the intersection between an activity, so some type of adventurous activity, and the natural environment, and then also an immersive cultural experience. And that if those all intersect, then that's truly an adventurous activity because it's challenging your mind and your body. And but we also it's really a different for any person. So if I'm somebody who maybe naturally haven't been as adventurous in my life, Doing a bike ride for the first time might feel adventurous to me, or if I've ridden a bike my whole life, going mountain biking, it might be something I hadn't done yet, and so then that might be adventurous. So for me, what I do personally as adventure travel is, I do hiking and stand-up paddleboarding and kayaking, and I've gone climbing, I've rafting. So I personally think that any activity that challenges somebody physically and mentally is adventure travel.
Wow. So it's different for every person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So by the way, when it comes to, can you please tell us about Adventure Travel and Trade Association, because you are president of this association? That what's its mission, that what you people are doing over there, and when it comes to your membership, if some company, small company becomes your member, how you benefit them, what kind of benefits they get?
Yeah. So our association, we're really working to improve the economic um, power of communities around the world. So, and we really believe that adventure travel has the power to do that. Often when people do adventure travel in a destination, their money, more of it stays in the destination than, say, more mainstream travel. So our mission really is to empower businesses to grow. And so we do that through education, through research, and through providing business type services and partnerships for them. So that's what we do as an organization. We have to do a lot of that virtually now. So we do a lot of virtual education, and our membership benefits. It varies based on the type of member that you are, but we offer a lot of webinars that are for the different types of needs for businesses. We offer free research reports for our members, and we have a networking platform that's for our members, where members can connect and discuss different topics for the industry, and also connect with people that might be partners for their business, providing different innovative opportunities for itineraries or anything that might be important to them as a business. They might need insurance or gear or marketing or PR support, and we try to create a community that allows them to do that.
Wow, that's great. By the way, when it comes to your training programs are also only for businesses, or let's say only for businesses, or also for customers who are travelers?
That's a great question. We don't have education or opportunities specifically for consumers, unless somebody, a traveler, is interested in getting into adventure travel. So we just launched a guide training program. So if a traveler is interested maybe in getting into the travel space and wants to perhaps do local guiding, I mean, that's a huge thing right now, where there's locals, obviously, like in the sharing economy, where people are either sharing their space or sharing their knowledge. So we have an online program that we've launched that's for guide training that somebody could take, but we don't specifically have training for travelers, let's say, to learn how to raft or to bike or anything like that. That's not something that we offer currently.
Wow. So by the way, when it comes to your training programs, I've been through few of the course outlines. I think it's really great, and you people are helping adventure industry to grow. By the way, there is one more thing which I want to ask you, that how you spent when it comes to your quarantine days, how you spent them and how you made them productive, and how much it affected your personal life. Can you please share positive and negative impact on your life?
Well, I have kids, so they're 12 and 14. So initially, it impacted us because they were home and not in school. So that was a little bit more challenging for my younger kid. So my husband and I are both home, and so just having to move, help him along in his studies. That was a little bit challenging while also working. Um, but I would say that it's made us also closer in many ways as a family, because we're, having to interact more. And so we did a lot of a lot of fun things in terms of playing more games together. We're a big game playing family, so we did that. But we also I like yoga, so I've been doing a lot of yoga and other just exercise at home over these last few months, and bike riding and walks and things outside, because we can still do them in Seattle and do them without masks on, which is nice because we have enough space here that we can safely socially distance and do those activities. So I would say, I already worked virtually. So ATTA is a virtual organization. So that was pretty seamless. And my husband also has worked virtually. It's affected us a little bit, and he took over my office. This is my office, but I'm not normally in here anymore. I had to move to a different room in our house. So anyway, we've had some adjustments, but it's been all right. And, mostly challenging from a business standpoint. We really have had to make a lot of changes to the organization because tourism's been affected so much. So I've been spending a lot of time, on the ATTA work and trying to be successful in that. So.
Yeah, by the way, when it comes to your business, when it comes to ATTA, how much you have pivoted it? Because when it comes to travel and tourism industry, it's the most vulnerable industry. It was one of the most vulnerable industries during this crisis. So how much you people have pivoted it?
How much have we pivoted? Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
Well, thankfully, our strategy this year, before COVID, a lot of it actually aligned really well with what we discovered that we needed to do anyway. So we were launching our online training program that was already in the works. And so we were able to do that fairly quickly because we were already working on it. We were also working on a new strategy for our membership levels because we're a global organization and we wanted to create more accessible membership types for businesses that are smaller, or for professionals, students, or guides, or people who might not be ready to enter as a business yet. And so we were already working on launching that. And so, I think those two were already ready to go. We just really scaled back some of our other work. We do a lot of events, and so we were really affected by our events. So a couple of our live events were canceled or postponed, and for that was a big change for us. So, but because we're a virtual organization, it was pretty easy for us to start working virtually and change those to virtual events. We just needed a different platform. So that all stayed the same, but we have been doing more work with COVID guidelines and trying to create more structure for businesses to come back. So we've been doing a lot of listening to our members and trying to fulfill things that they need. And so these guidelines were super important to them, and keeping a pulse on what travelers are going to do next. So those are been new parts of our strategy. And now, as things not normalize, but as we move into what's next, we're now going to be revisiting, what does 2021 look like? Do we need to continue to pivot in other ways based on what we're sort of seeing landing, like more local and regional travel? Does that stay? Do businesses keep doing that offering that type of travel for travelers, or are they going to move to international? So that's where we're still watching.
So, wow. I think, by the way, what's your advice for small startups? There are a lot of small startups who work in travel and tourism industry across the globe, because I did podcast almost in every single country across the globe. And I came to know that there were plenty of startups who were working in this industry. They have to shut down their business. What's your advice for startups who are out of, like, maybe out of budget, or they were unable to take it virtually? What's your advice for them? Small budding startups,
Hmm.
how they can survive?
Oh, well, I would say if they're able to pause, that might be smart. Take a few months to let things settle. If they don't have the ability to do some pivoting themselves, because um, it's and taking a more of a little bit of a wait and see, because it can be expensive to continue to run your business, or to see how you can align with other businesses and maybe provide, if you have equipment, like let's say you've bought a van or you have bikes, or what can you do with assets that you might have spent money on? How can you do something unique with maybe restaurants or with local businesses that might need support, and kind of think outside the box, and it might actually create a new business opportunity that you hadn't even been
I
thinking
think this
about.
is something which is really great, that people need to think out of the box and they need to think according to the situation, and they need to use their existing resources they have to generate revenues. I think this is really a great message for everyone, specifically for startups. So, by the way, globally, there is a discussion going on that sustainable tourism should be the new norm for travel and tourism industry. Why sustainable tourism is important? Can you please tell this for the audience to make them understand? Because there was a statement by President UNWTO that sustainable tourism should be the new norm. It shouldn't be a junk anymore. It should be a mainstream. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we have an incredible opportunity right now. No other time in our world would we have had tourism across the globe be on pause. So there was a growing problem with a lot of destinations having too many travelers, and causing too large of a load on the environment and on the local people. And so now we have this opportunity where tourism has stopped, and there is the ability to rebuild and rethink about how to bring it back in a sustainable manner. Now's the time to do what so many of us in the industry have been wanting to do already. And it's important for climate, so that we can take a look at what our carbon load is. And it's important for local communities. It's important for the environment. And we believe that adventure travel is a really positive type of travel that can really help support a more sustainable future for the tourism industry. And so it is a generally, it brings more revenue into the destination, as I spoke of earlier. You need outdoor spaces to be taken care of. You want wildlife to be in sustainable populations. You want there to be healthy, interesting small towns that are thriving, to create the type of interest and the cultural experiences that all travelers are really looking for. So for those reasons, we just believed for healthy destinations, it's going to create healthy tourism, and that is having that all relies on those more sustainable methods.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a global discussion right now, and we are at a metaphorical fork where we need to decide that we need to go back to the kind of tourism the world used to have, or we can be in a better world when it comes to travel and tourism. I think it's a point to ponder, and everyone needs to think about this. Specifically, the players who belong to this industry, they can create awareness and they can play a major role towards sustainable and more balanced tourism. So, by the way, there is a thing like COVID has changed everything. When COVID came, like everyone had a plan that this year I'm going to do this, I'm going to travel this place. So, what plans you had which you were unable to complete because of COVID-19? Can you please share that?
It's funny. Normally, I would have had plans, but because I almost always am traveling somewhere internationally with my family, um, I didn't have um, I didn't have any of those plans this year. So I was thankfully not as affected. I mean, we had recently gone on a 3-week trip to Europe. We had done trips to Canada. I'm trying to think of where else we've gone lately. Um, we've gone to Mexico anyway. So we didn't have anything planned. What changed for me was more work plans, going on some work related trips that have been canceled. So thankfully I wasn't affected as much as many of my colleagues and my friends who had international trips planned who weren't able to do those. I had a domestic trip to Oregon that we had planned in July, and we ended up going still. So it was to Bend, Oregon. And that was a couple weeks ago. And we were debating on whether we should still go because we wanted to do the right thing. Wanted to make sure that travelers are welcome. So we really checked the website. We checked to see what was open. We checked to see if hiking trails and biking and the things that we like to do were going to be available, and they were. But what's interesting is about a week after we came back, and we stayed at a Airbnb style place. But about a week after we came back, the tourism body of Bend, Oregon, asked travelers to stop coming. So it's definitely, for those travelers out there, it changes minute by minute. And I feel like you really need to respect the destination's wishes about they are trying to not have travelers come. It's because it could be a load on the hospitals or the locals. And if cases are going up, it's important to respect that.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. By the way, there is one thing that which I want to ask you because you have years of experience in travel and tourism industry. When it comes to sustainable tourism policies, we can have policies. Every single country can have policies. But when it comes to implementation, would you suggest that how effective implementation can happen when it comes to policies in travel and tourism industry?
Hmm. Well, I think that it differs for all of the different countries. I think that some of the things that I've seen not be as effective is that policies are put in place, but they're not communicated to travelers. So travelers need to, and travel not communicated well to travelers. So if you have policies, travelers need to know about them, and they need to be prevalent. They need to be visible. They need to be understood. And I think that that's an important part of it, and that locals need to be part of the creation of those policies that you put into place. So I think it is different. It's different based on what how reliant, let's say, a destination might be on tourism. It might depend on the infrastructure that is in place or needs to be put in place. So I don't think that there's a standard way to answer that question because I think it's really different. But I think
Yeah, so in general, what you said that it can happen in a public-private partnership. That would be the best approach. So by the way, when it comes to you were the member of, you were the executive member and vice president for animal welfare. You also worked as a volunteer for immigrant rights projects and refugee women alliance. It shows that you do a lot of social work. How that came into happen, how that came into like how that thing came into you when you started that when it comes to social work.
Are you
And
asking
specifically,
how
you
did I
also
start
mentioned
doing
that
that work?
yeah,
So when
because everyone
I
is too busy. Like definitely when it comes to your portfolio and your position, you are damn busy with your work, but you still manage time for when it comes to that animal welfare thing. So how that like it's like it's something which you always wanted to do.
just believe in that it's important for you to donate your time outside of your profession to organizations that might need your help or to people that might need your help. So that's just important to me individually. Over the last few years, I have done a little bit less volunteer work due to some personal situations that I've had. But over the years, it's been something that I've wanted to do in order to give back, either for a wildlife cause or to immigration rights is important to me. Women's leadership is also an important topic for me that at the ATTA I have worked on, in diversity and inclusion and equity right now with Black Lives Matter is something that is also something personally that I'm spending time on to make a difference in my own life, and then also through business as well.
Wow, this is really great that you do a lot of social things as well. So, by the way, there is a thing that when it comes to travel and tourism, when it comes to personally to you, which is that country or place you visited before and you really recommend others for adventure tourism? That that place is the best,
Hmm.
which you like the
Oh,
most. Yeah, which place you like the most? Yeah.
I like a lot of places, so it's hard to narrow it down. But I would.
So specifically for adventure travel and tourism.
One of my best experiences was going to Ecuador. I went to the highlands of Ecuador. I really liked Quito, and then we went to the Galapagos as well. And we did some diving, some scuba diving in the Galapagos, and dove with whale sharks. So that was one of my most memorable
Wow.
experiences. But I also really liked Kosovo in Europe. Kosovo
That
and
was scary.
what? Which experience? Whale sharks?
Yeah, the diving with the white sharks. Yeah.
No, they're gentle. They're gentle creatures. They're huge, but they're the way that they feed. They just feed on like plankton and scoop up that. So they're. I'm not going to get bit, and they're just beautiful. So no,
So
it
they
wasn't
don't
scary.
harm humans.
Mm-mm. I was more scared of the Galapagos sharks. Those um, those were smaller, but a little more scary than the whale sharks.
Yeah. You were telling about some other place. Also, you were mentioning some other place.
Oh, Kosovo in Europe is really a very new opening destination for tourism, and I kind of liked how raw it felt. The food was amazing, and just a lot of wonderful hiking, and just it was just really interesting to go there. So that and Albania and Macedonia were just some cool places.
Wow. So it means you're also a food lover. So by the way, there is one more thing that what is your life advice for the listeners,
Mm.
specifically when it comes to travelers?
Mm. Life advice. Always try something new. Don't be afraid, because you might find a new passion, and it could be a new food, it could be a new activity. But I think for me, if I'm afraid of something, it means I need to conquer it. So I usually, if I'm afraid to go waterfall jumping, then it means I need to try it and do it. So I advise people
So this is how
to
you overcome fear of failure.
I guess, yeah.
I think this is a great way. Yeah, like until and unless you don't go for something, why you're afraid of that? Like, yeah, this is the only way you are gonna know that you're afraid of it or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, by the way, Cassie, thank you so much for taking out time doing this podcast with us. It's a 30 minutes podcast and it's 30 minutes on the dial. So, yeah, thank you so much
Yeah, thank
for
you.
being here with us and educating people about telling people about adventure travel and tourism. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate
Bye
it.
bye.
Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.
It's really nice meeting to you. Bye bye.